In this video, we're going to make the arms and legs for the soda can. We'll begin by creating a polygon cube. And I'll drag it down in front of the chair and give it some height, something like this. Now I want to start shaping the shoe before I extrude the rest of the shoe plus the leg that will go up to the can itself. So I'm going to use my edge loop tool. And with the edge loop tool, I'll click and put an edge here, and then approximately here. I hit W on the keyboard to get out of the edge loop tool, and then I'll right click and I'll choose vertex. And I'm going to begin to shape the front of the shoe where it would be wider, right in this area. And I'm going to go back and forth from 1 and 3 on the keyboard so I can see what my progress is. I'll return to 1 on the keyboard. And next, I would like the shoe to be flatter on the bottom. So I'll return to 1 on the keyboard. I'll get my edge loop tool and I'll place an edge very close to the bottom. Now when I hit 3, it is flatter there. Hitting 1 on the keyboard, I'll hit W to return back to my move tool. Now we're going to start working on where the top of the shoe would be here and then extruding the leg. I'll right click and choose face, and I'll click on that face. I'm going to pull up a little higher because the shoe gets a little higher up here whereas it starts to approach where the ankle is. Once it's about like that, I'll go to my extrude tool. I'm going to click on my extrude tool, and I'll pull a little bit up on the y-axis, and then I'm going to access the scale tool for it, and I'll pull it in a little bit. And then I'm going to hit the extrude tool again. Now, if I'm using the extrude tool multiple times, I can just simply hit G on the keyboard to introduce another polygon set. So I've done that. I'll click, and then I'll drag it out. I'm going to hit 3 on the keyboard. Now I can see the effect of what I've done. So if I wanted to, now I can kind of accentuate this. The reason we go back and forth to 1 and 3 is because the 3 is our proxy smooth, but it also reduces the polygon volume. So you can see that I needed to kind of make that larger once I knew what it would look like with the smooth on. I'll hit 1 on the keyboard, and I'm going to hit G. I'll pull it up again, and then I'll hit G 1 more time, pulling it up 1 more time again, and then I'll start to taper it in to where the leg will begin to be extruded from. I'll hit 3 on the keyboard to see what I have so far. So you can see with some basic edges what we've already accomplished. Hitting 1 on the keyboard, I'm going to hit W and return to my object mode. And at this point, I'll want to pull the shoe out away from the chair a little bit more so I can start to extrude the leg. I'm not so concerned about the scale at this point. I want to get the shape, and then I'll scale it and rotate it and put it in position. So now I've got a little bit more room in which to make the shin and the thigh. I'll right click and choose face, and I'll click on the face at the top. I'll hit the extrude, and I'll pull it up. And now, pretty subjective at this point, I'm going to start to introduce some faces so I can rotate this and have it put the thigh in horizontally. So once I've got the height here, I'll either click on my extrude tool or I'll hit G to introduce another one. I'll pull it up, and you'll notice that with the extrude tool you have this blue circle as well. If I click on that, it gives me the rotation function for the extrude tool. So I'll start to tip it just a little bit, and then I'll move it out. I'll hit G 1 more time, pulling that out as well. And I'll hit the blue circle, and I'll rotate it so it's starting to look more horizontal. And now I can extrude the piece that will be the thigh. So hitting G on the keyboard, I'll pull it out again. And I'm going to hit 3 to see what I have at this point. So I've got it roughed in pretty basically here, but it's tapering off right at the end here. So I'll hit 1, and then I'll put 1 last edge right at the end of the thigh. When I hit 3, you can see it holds together pretty well. Hitting 1 on the keyboard, I'll hit Command S to save, and I'll hit W to go back to my regular move tool. So now if I wanted to, I could go down and customize this more. In this instance, I don't want it to be so round up here. So hitting 1, I'll get my edge loop tool again, and I'll put an edge here, and then I'll put an edge down there. So if I hit 3 on the keyboard, now I've got the foot pretty much the way I would want it. All that would be left to do now would be to scale it and put it into position. Returning to my object mode, I'll hit R on my keyboard, I'll scale it down, and now I'll start to put it into the position I want it to be. Hitting W, I'll move it, and I'll give it a bit of a rotation. So I have something like this. And now I'm going to duplicate it and pull it over to this side. So I'll hit Command D and I'll pull it over like so. Maybe I'll get my rotation tool and just rotate it a little bit so that it's not quite so static and redundant. And I'll hit Command S to save. We'll approach the arm the same way, and I'll start by introducing a polygon cube. In this instance, I'm going to make it smaller and a little higher than wide, and I'll pull it up. And I'll begin by selecting the face in the front, and I'll hit the extrude button for that. And much the same way we did the knee, as I introduce these, I'll start rotate them and move them. Fingers kind of taper a bit as they radiate out from the hand itself, so I'll make it a little thinner there. And I'll hit G again, pulling out another section. And at this point, it depends whether you want the fingers just to be kind of like this. You could always keep going and have it wrap around something, but I'm going to stop right about here, scale it in both directions, hitting 3 on the keyboard to see what I've got, so you can see how we are so far. I'll hit 1 on the keyboard, and now I need to place where I'd like the thumb to be. I'll get the edge loop tool, and I'll put an edge in maybe there. Now I'm going to select the face on the inside back here, get my extrude tool, I'll pull it out, and I'll access the rotation and kind of rotate that a bit. Now all I need to do is select the face on top, hit G to get the extrude tool, and you can see as you go back from 1 and 3, kind of like where we're going with this. So I'll hit 1 on the keyboard, maybe I'll pull it in that direction, taper it a little bit up here, looking for something cartoony. I'll hit G, I'll pull it up, and I'll hit 3 on the keyboard. So something like this is going to serve the purpose that we need for this. Now I need to put the rest of the arm attached to this. So I'm going to begin by going to the back. I'll select this face, and I'll hit G on the keyboard or click on my extrude tool. And much the same way we did with the foot, I'll click on the scale tool, I'll taper it a bit, hitting G. I'll give one with a little bit of thickness, hitting G again. I'll pull it out, and I'll start to flare this out like a glove. I'll hit 3 to see what I have. So you can see kind of like what we're looking for here. All right, so I think what I want to do is add another poly face. I'll pull it out, hit G one more time, pull it out again. I'm going to start to taper this back so that I can extrude the rest of the arm. And I'll hit G, and I'll pull out the forearm, hitting 3 on the keyboard to see what I have so far. And just like the foot, I'll come back and I'll shore that up with an edge. But I'll hit 1 on the keyboard. And once I've got the forearm the length I want, I'll go ahead and I'll start to make the curve of the elbow. Hitting G, I'll pull out a face. I'll hit the rotation, start to rotate it on its axis. And then with the move tool, I'll move it out. Hitting G one more time, I'll pull it up. And I'll rotate that so I can put the rest of the arm in. And now I'll put the bicep in. So I'll hit 3 to see what my progress is. So you can see how quickly we were able to put this together. Now I'll hit 1 on the keyboard, and I want to shore up down here where the arm gets flared out too wide when we hit 3. So I'll get my edge loop tool and I'll drop an edge there, And just like what we did with the foot, I'll put one there as well. When I hit 3, it pretty much holds it together for me. And just like our thigh, we've got this issue up here, but I think I might want a bit of a shoulder bone here. So I think what I'll do is I'll get my edge loop. I'll throw an edge in here, hitting W. I'll right click and choose face. And I'll select this face and I'll extrude a couple of polys out here. I'll hit 3. I'll hit 1. With my edge loop, I'm going to shore it up on the edge there, here, and here. And now if I hit 3 on the keyboard, I have pretty much what I want. So next I'm going to scale it and I'll put it into position. With the arm in position, I need a mirror image to reflect over for the right arm on this. I've selected it. I'll delete the history, freeze the transforms, and then I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate Special, and in the Duplicate Special, I have to identify the axis on which to reflect it. Mine is going to be on the X. So in the attributes, I'll make sure that I put a minus sign in front of scale 1 for the X-axis. I'll hit return to set it. I'll hit apply. And now I have the arm that I need for the other side. And now we have our arms and legs.